Okay, this is the second video, and so last time we brought over the first teacher's info into its own tab, or it's called a sheet, but it's a tab at the bottom, and I set up this table at the top, which automatically calculates how many students are in this data set, how many of those are proficient. It looks at the C column, which is where the results are, and then how many that is in percents, and then how many not proficient, and not proficient percentage too. Um, the this will always work even if you use forms for non-multiple choice, as long as you wait until you've graded it. So if you're giving a numeric value to the results of a written response, so if you've graded everything, then once it's in here, you can still make this cells where it says as long as this is above a certain threshold, then it's proficient. So I just wanted to mention that from last time. So the next thing, and this is maybe what people wanted to see more, was how do we set up color coding so that I can quickly look and see which student is proficient and which one is not. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So the first thing to do is uh, we need to select the cells where I'm going to give this kind of formatting instructions to the spreadsheet. So I would do that by selecting the whole cells. When I showed these in the solution tree meeting, I had done it across the whole row, but I'm going to do another video where I show you how to selectively color code the responses so that you can see this, like for one specific kid, which ones did they get right and wrong. So um, I'm only selecting the cells up to where the responses start, so up to period 5. And these will vary depending on what you ask your students. The only reason it shows the period here is because we asked what period are you in. The only reason it shows the teacher is because we asked uh, who's your teacher, and their name wouldn't even be here unless you say what is your name in as a question in the form. Other than that, it collects just the date and their email, and you have to set it to collect the email too. So um, these things may look different, but the principles apply. So I selected these columns, but I don't want to mess with the table that I set up last time, or these blank cells that separate the table from the data. So if I hold control, I can unselect the things that I don't want to affect with the formatting that I'm going to do right now. So I selected those columns, and that goes all the way down. So it's important to do what I did at the beginning, selecting the whole columns, because if you add another student below this and you didn't go all the way down, they will not be affected by the formatting. So this makes all these columns all the way down will be implicated. So now we have these columns selected. Uh, to make the color coding, you need to, instead of adding a formula directly into the cells, you right click and you come down to conditional formatting. So we are going to create conditions under which things would be green, conditions for when things would be red, conditions for when things are going to be clear or not highlighted. So the first one that I would recommend you do is to clear things. So if you're looking at this little thing that opened up, the conditional format rules, it's really not that complicated. So the first field says apply to range. It's going to apply between A4 and F1000. That's because I selected these columns and I eliminated these top columns. So it goes from A4 all the way down to column F, number 1000 at the bottom. So that is just the range. So you could do this for one cell. You could do this for one row. You could dictate the range to which we want to apply these rules. The first rule, format rules, is a very simple one. I'm going to say if it's empty, I want it to have no, whoops. If it's empty, I want it to have no fill. So this little bucket means fill. Um, and I'm done. So now, because if I don't do that first, it's going to have like shading in all these empty cells, and it's distracting, and I think it's ugly. So first off, I'm telling it in these columns, do not fill anything or shade it at all if it's empty. The next rule is where it gets a bit more complicated. So we are still selected on the same range of cells, But now we need to give it these pre-built conditions are not enough for what we want. We need to make our own formula. So the custom formula is this. I'm going to tell it again, equal sign, because I said Excel or spreadsheets in general, equals is an indication of formula. So I'm going to tell it, and you don't need to know why, but if you use a dollar sign and then the letter C, and so because the results are in the C column. So starting at C4, so dollar sign C4, it really just means that this is always going to be the case. It's always going to be checking from this column from this C4 all the way down. So dollar sign C4, if that is greater than or equal to whatever you agreed was proficiency, right? If it's greater than or equal to the number 4, then we want it green. And it's already set to green, so that's good. So all I did was I chose the range and I said custom formula, and I said this is the formula. Dollar sign from C4, wherever your results start, wherever your first student's results cell is. So from C4, if it's greater than or equal to 4, then that's green. So that's done. So all the green ones are greater than or equal to 4. And the next one I would do, and I would do this one's going to be if it's 0, because you want to do that first. Because in the end, we're going to say if it's less than 4, it's going to be red. But if that rule supersedes the 0 rule, then even the zeros will be red. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So the range is the same. The custom rule, again, is what we're going to do. And then we hit equals. And this time we're going to say from dollar sign C4, again, same cell. That's where the results are. If it's equal to 0, then I'm going to choose a different color to highlight. I'm going to say let's highlight that yellow so that I can find my zeros really easily. You see the 0 students are yellow. And then my final rule, same process, same cell, dollar sign C4. If it's less than 4, then we want red. And I'm not going to choose the bright red because I'm going to use that later for a different purpose. Looks like I made a mistake. Oops, I forgot the equal sign. Okay, so now you see it's 4 or less is a red, 4 or more is green, and then the zeros are there. Now, like I said, if you have this rule ahead of that rule, if you have the less than 4 rule above the 0 rule, it's going to supersede it because it does these in order. It executes in order. So all you have to do to fix that is keep the 0 first. It'll check that first and apply it, and then it will apply the other rules in descending priority. So that's all you have to do to color code your students, whether they're proficient or not, using these spreadsheets. I think that's all I have to say about that. All right.